get some matcha.
Yeah.
See ya.
Live. We certainly appreciate you being here with us. Plenty of great conversations to get into today. And boy, one of those has got to be about the weather outside. It is a super cloudy day and a cool day here in the city of Chicago for many. Seen a lot of people, a little windy, as you can see the camera shaking there. Seen a lot of people in jackets today. But the 90s are on the way. Look at all those folks out at the Bean, and you see some of them are covered up. But the 90s, yeah, the 90s are on the way, from jackets to sweating it out. That is the true Chicago way. So we're gearing up for a conversation about what is to come in terms of your weekend. And obviously, when the weather does cooperate for people to get out and about and do more, come some of the more unsavory things as well that we have to talk about as well. And we're going to get into a bit of that momentarily here. Let me tell you about what all is to come here in this first hour that we have together here for our show today. We're bringing in a representative from the Library Conference here in America, and they are having a big annual event. It's going to be right here in the city of Chicago. And so we have the president of the American Library Association to talk about their 2026 annual conference and exhibition here, and how many people they're bringing to this area. The American Library Association, some great things that are on the way, and conversations that they'll be having as well during their time here very soon. It is the world's largest library event now returning to our area. That should be around 1:45, around 1:30, something that affects tens of thousands, if not millions of people. Apple prices on Macs and iPads are on the rise. Yeah, and this is amid a boom for AI technology. And so the tech giant has cited the soaring cost of memory and storage chips. For sure, we're all using more, right? As the reason that they're now increasing prices more than $200 on some devices. So it's pretty shocking, I'm sure, to the system. We're going to bring in our own Fox News technology reporter, Eben Brown, to discuss that, what we can all prepare for now, and what are those devices that are going to have a $200 surcharge. I mean, that's quite a bit. We also anticipate getting into the details of a huge ruling that just came down from the Supreme Court. This will really be day two of us delving into the facts, the emotions of Supreme Court rulings. Yesterday, we talked about asylum seekers and the big decision that came down that says no longer can you be outside of the U.S., like right outside of the U.S., and seek asylum in the U.S. for whatever reasons you may be, fleeing from where you have lived and known as home, but you would have to be inside of the U.S. And so there's a lot of fallout there. There's a lot of confusion as to how that exactly that works. And the same for this new ruling, this 7-2 decision that Bayer, huge manufacturer, cannot be sued over state-level claims that the company failed to warn of cancer risks from its weed killer Roundup and its chemical glyphosate that is in the Roundup. And so we'll get into more of that discussion that affects so many people as well. But I want to come back to this first conversation because it's very top of mind for us right now. We had a terrible tragedy that happened in our area last night. A woman died. 4 other people were critically injured after 2 boats collided on Lake Michigan. Again, when we start to see the weather cooperate even the slightest bit, obviously, I mean, we stay cooped up in the cold conditions for so long. Everybody wants to get out. Everyone wants to have a good time. And unfortunately, we see things like this. Multiple victims went to area hospitals. There was a large emergency response overnight. We have the video on our website, fox32chicago.com. But let's just talk a little bit about how to possibly prevent situations like this from happening. And that's not saying we know all of the details as to exactly what happened here, but there are some basic overarching safety tips and advisements that we can all adhere to. And so that's kind of where we want to start with our discussions here on the show. And we're so glad to be joined by Master Captain Ben Brandano, Boat Safe Chicago, and Life Raft Pros. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
When you hear of situations like what happened last night, and again, not knowing all the details, but just when you see that kind of headline, what goes through your mind?
Uh, it's sad because it's something that we see every year.
Mm-hmm.
It's something we see too often, and it really just comes down to you know, people need to know the rules of the road when it comes to being on the water, and they have to understand that, it's not like a car. You have to put in some education on how to captain a boat, how to pilot a boat, how to own a boat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of people would say the best way to go about summer in Chicago is to have a friend who has a boat, but there is some level of responsibility for clearly the person who is the captain, but then also everyone who gets on the boat. Let's kind of go through some of the more common issues that come up that you see that could be preventable.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of people that get on a boat in Chicago, they might not own a boat, right? So the charter business in Chicago is a thriving one,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people will rent a boat, and it's a great option. You can get out on the water a couple times a year, and it's not going to break the bank like a boat would. Um, but you do want to make sure that you're getting on a legal charter. So you want to make sure that the owner of the boat has all the proper paperwork, which you can request to see, which you should see prior to going out on that charter. Another thing is the captain that you're hiring to drive the boat. You want to make sure they're qualified, and a lot of captains have licenses, and you just want to make sure that those people are qualified to operate that vessel, and they have the experience, because a lot of people can get a captain's license but not have that experience. So it's just good to have a conversation with your captain when you decide to go on that boat. Ask to see his credentials, ask to see all the proper paperwork for the vessel. But those are going to be the main things that you want to really get your eyes on when chartering a boat, and when you're going out with friends. You want to make sure that your friend has the proper education to operate the boat, because they're solely responsible for the safety of the people that decide to go on that vessel.
Mm-hmm. And when things do happen, when there is distress on a boat, are there some things that are hard and fast you should do, you should not do?
I mean, when you're going to be on a boat, everything happens quickly. When something goes wrong, it goes wrong fast. So really, it's just being prepared, right? You want to make sure that you know where that fire extinguisher is. You know where the life vests are. You know where the flares are. You know where everything is and all the safety equipment when you get on board a vessel. So if you're chartering a boat, have your captain point it out. If you're going out on a friend's boat that no one else is familiar with, have the owner of the boat point out where all the safety equipment is, because if something happens to him where he becomes incapacitated, you got to make sure that, okay, we can call for help. We can drop the anchor if we need to. We can notify other boats around. That's just what you need to do.
Mm-hmm. And of course, again, I just want to make abundantly clear we don't have all of the details. We are talking about, very general, important safety tips for people, because we know that so many people are going to be getting on, the 4th is coming up, getting on the water very soon. It's going to be in
Absolutely.
the 90s. So people are going to want to do these things. A lot of times alcohol is involved, so I don't want to not have a conversation about that too, again, but being very clear, we don't know what happened in this situation.
Right. I mean, yeah, alcohol and boats seem to have gone hand in hand for a really long time, but anyone that owns a boat or operates a boat needs to understand that this is a heavy piece of machinery, right? it can cause a disaster like we saw yesterday. We don't know what happened necessarily, but clearly, one boat was, you know, uh, one boat came into this port quarter, it looks like, on top of the other one, is what I can tell from the damaged pictures and videos. And but both people have to be, whether you're the vessel that is the stand-on vessel or the giveaway vessel, you both have to be observant of your surroundings and who's going and who's on the water around you. You never want to be complacent. I think complacency is the biggest problem with many things, especially working on water or going out on the water and enjoying a day. But yeah, circling back to the mention of alcohol, yeah, you need a sober captain if you're going to be driving a boat. This, especially the Fourth of July weekend, you got to be sober. You got to be aware. You are responsible for the people on board, and you want your friends to be able to celebrate the next weekend on a boat.
Master Captain Ben Brandano, thank you so much for your time and sharing your expertise. And I certainly hope that something that you said, because it was very clear instructions, will resonate with people, that helps them and could possibly even save a life.
Absolutely. No, I hope that it resonates with some people or at least one person.
Mm-hmm.
That way they can enjoy the beautiful Chicago summers. But if you are looking for any training, Boat Safe Chicago offers some great training. Get out there on the water, but be safe about it.
Thank you. I'm sure people will take you up on that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care.
Take care. Great information there from Captain Ben, as he again is more so talking about things again moving forward, how others can be safe, as we're still getting more information about what happened last night. These 14 people who were involved in a crash, all 5 injured victims, riding on the same boat. One woman losing her life last night. 4 people that were critically injured, and we're still waiting on updates even on just how bad their injuries are, and obviously hoping and praying for those of us who believe that things will turn around for them. But a horrible turn of events in general for folks who just went out to have a good time, I'm sure. No one wants your time on a boat to end up like this, where you're saying goodbye to a friend or someone that you love here. So we're going to continue on with our conversation, but from a bit of a different perspective here, as we maybe talk more so about the legal aspect of this. We have a partner, Mike Sarasa from Romanucci in Blandon, who is joining me. And we appreciate you being here. I'd like to know a little bit about what are the legalities in a situation where something goes wrong on a boat. Is it on the people who have gotten on the boat for a good time, or is it on the actual charter company?
Yeah, good afternoon. And I certainly want to reiterate everything that Captain Brandano said, and my thoughts and prayers go out to the family of everyone involved. When it comes to boating accidents, it's not all that dissimilar for any other type of transportation accident. Depending on the specific facts of what we happened here, and as it's been clear throughout this conversation, we don't know exactly what happened last night. But the fault could lie with one or both of the captains operating the 2 boats involved, or depending on the facts, it could involve people who are on the boat just riding. Ultimately, everyone is responsible for operating any vessel in a safe and responsible manner. And as we learn more facts, I'm sure that we'll learn more about what exactly happened.
Yeah, what are some of the common things that come up in a legal suit for a boating accident? Is it speed? Is it lack of certification? What are some of the things?
Well, I think the things you see most often, and I've been doing maritime accident law in Florida and in Illinois for over 20 years, and the things we usually see are inexperienced captains or inexperienced people operating the vessel. Speed is certainly a factor in many accidents. And as you've already touched on, especially in the summer season, alcohol and boating tends to be too often a deadly mix.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate. So when you see a headline like this, what goes through your mind from your perspective?
Immediately, I was drawn to a couple of things. One, The accident happened late at night. By reports, it was near midnight. So clearly the conditions were dark, and one has to wonder if that contributed to what happened on Lake Michigan. Certainly, it being late at night as well, you wonder, and as obviously we don't know, you want to know what was the experience of the captain, what was the condition of the captains involved. Certainly, it's just a tragic occurrence, and as we learn more facts, something that probably could have and should have been prevented.
It is huge, and I'm glad that you, pointed out the time period that this happened, because that is something that kind of jumps out as possibly being a little odd in terms of then you have some type of situation like this. For people who reach out, I mean, if they have been in some type of maritime accident and they reach out for help. What typically is the investigation like for a legal firm taking on a case like this?
Sure, it's not all that dissimilar from a traffic accident. We're going to be looking at the reports that are done by the police department that's involved. We're going to be looking at any Coast Guard investigation records, records of the companies involved, if it's a charter boat company on one or both of the parties, looking into the records of maintenance on the vessels, if that had any impact. Obviously, looking into what medical treatment is needed or to support the families and the victims involved, and then kind of assessing, who has fault for the accident, which parties, if it's one or both of the boats involved, and then advising our clients on the best course of action to take care of them and make sure their needs are met in the future.
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking over as you were talking about the damage, video showing a windshield missing, a stern heavily crushed. When the Chicago Police Department's Marine unit was towing one of the boats to shore, and that second boat that was towed, they said sustained less damage. So all 9 people aboard that vessel declined medical treatment. It's just a horrible situation. And again, at the beginning of what's really the prime time when people look to get out on the water. But if nothing more, it should sound an alarm for many people who are getting ready to get out there to make sure they are as prepared as possible before they get on the water. Thank you so much for joining us, helping us to kind of work through some of the legalities here. Are there any other things that you think people, from a legal standpoint, should be mindful of during this boating season?
I think the first thing is just to be safe and have fun, be responsible. There's no reason why people can't go out on the lake and have a great time, enjoy boats, enjoy the nice weather. We certainly earn it living here through the winter. Mm-hmm. We should be out there, enjoy everything that Chicago has to offer on the water. But like anything else, do so responsibly and be aware of your surroundings. And if unfortunately something does happen to you or a friend or loved one, make sure you look into what your legal rights are and make sure that you're protected.
Attorney Sarasa, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Have a good weekend.
You
All
as
right,
well.
everyone, it's 1:18 right now. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be back. I think we have had a kind of a two-part conversation about boating safety and knowledge here to start off our show, coming off of a terrible tragedy that happened last night. Again, this crash on Lake Michigan, leaving 1 person dead, 4 critically injured. Certainly hoping and praying for the best for those who are trying to recover both mentally and physically from what happened on the water last night, but also wanting to protect others during this really beginning of our warm season, and hoping that we won't be reporting on anything like this anytime soon again. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be back. Hey, welcome back, everyone. 121 right now. We're going to kind of stay in the legal realm of things, but taking things all the way to the Supreme Court for another day of major decisions and us trying to kind of work through what that actually means for so many people in our area and throughout the country. So, on this particular case, the Supreme Court limits now Roundup cancer lawsuits against Bayer's Monsanto. This is over state level claims that the company failed to warn of cancer risks from its weed killer Roundup. So we have Patty Goldman, senior attorney for Earth Justice, who is joining us right now. Thank you so much for being here, and I'd love to know your thoughts, just first and foremost, generally on the ruling.
Well, the ruling is devastating. It's devastating for people who've been harmed by pesticides, not just Roundup, but other pesticides as well, because they can no longer go to court and hold the companies responsible for their injuries when the company knew of dangers and didn't tell them. But it's also devastating because it removes incentives for pesticide companies to make sure that the labels on their products are letting people know the harms that are caused and how they can protect themselves from those harms. And there no longer will be that incentive because they don't face liability under state law. They won't face juries who will look at the evidence and decide whether they should have to pay for the medical bills and the lost wages of people who got sick.
Tell me about, is it glyphosate?
Glyphosate, however, or you can just say Roundup.
What when we say, the chemicals in it, I mean, and we mentioned that, what are we really getting at here in terms of how strong this chemical is beyond killing weeds?
Right. Well, pesticides are meant to kill weeds or insects. And the problem is that when people come into contact with them, they can cause harm to people. So Roundup is a formulation that is used by people around their homes or other people in residential areas. And the main ingredient, glyphosate, has been correlated with cancer. And that's what the testing that EPA used is on that chemical. But it's also in a whole product. And what EPA does not look at is the cancer causing potential of the whole product. And there's evidence that some of the other chemicals that are added that allow the pesticide to stick to the plants are even more dangerous, and the product as a whole is more dangerous. And so when the Environmental Protection Agency is approving this pesticide and the label that's submitted by Monsanto, it isn't reviewing whether the product as a whole causes cancer. And that's one of the reasons that we needed the state lawsuits so that the people who are harmed could put in the evidence about the whole product that EPA wasn't reviewing. And juries were agreeing and awarding very large awards for people that were harmed because they believed that Monsanto knew about these harms and didn't put them on the label, didn't let people know they shouldn't apply this pesticide in t-shirts and shorts like the advertisements could indicate, but instead they should protect themselves. They should wear gloves. They should protect themselves from.
And so gloves would be enough protection?
Well, not necessarily, but certainly having contact with your skin is too dangerous, and there should be protections. So, I mean, the kind of things that Monsanto could have done, they could have warned that people could get cancer from applying this pesticide. They, as an alternative, they could have recommended all sorts of protective clothing and ways to limit exposures. And if they had done that, and people had complied, then maybe they wouldn't have been injured. But it's really not just this product. I know this is the one that went to the court, but there are a lot of other pesticides where there is evidence that has emerged that they cause Parkinson's disease or are associated with autism or behavioral disorders in children. And there have been court cases that have been brought about that kind of evidence by people who were harmed. And EPA has not acted on that evidence, has not required warnings or other directions for use that could protect people from these kinds of harms. And that's what the lawsuits are about. And now, under this ruling, there will be no more lawsuits based on the label. There could be lawsuits based on the advertisement or maybe promises that are made, like warranties, but not based on a failure to warn. Instead, the way the court viewed this is the Environmental Protection Agency is the one who will have to decide if a different label would be required.
So, and just kind of listening to you there, the company Bayer has been really celebrating this, saying that they've been under duress, essentially, that they have had a decade of legal battles, that this kind of puts to rest a lot of that. But it sounds like what you're saying is likely the legal battles aren't over. The attacks will just come from a different level or a different vein.
Yes, well, the court was acting on the federal law as it's currently written. And under that law, states have the power, they retain the power to ban pesticides, to restrict their use, to require protective clothing, anything that will protect people in the state. And states will act when EPA does not. And so that will be one way people can protect themselves. But the court was reviewing the law as it's currently written, and Congress could step in and change that law. And it could make it clear that people could still go to court under state law, and nothing in the federal law precludes that. And there could be a lot of support for that. Just last month, there were provisions that Bayer was lobbying heavily to get passed as part of the Farm Bill that would have done what the Supreme Court did. But in the House, they were stripped with a record-breaking vote that was bipartisan to take those preemption provisions out. And I think that shows us that people in Congress are hearing from their constituents that they want checks, they want limits, and they don't want federal law to shut the courthouse door and prevent people from being able to sue, hold companies accountable for what they know, and get compensation when they're harmed, when pesticide companies don't do that.
And I hear you, and I feel that. It seems, that's what would happen. But the company share rose after this ruling. So what do you attribute that to?
Well, it means that they won't face this kind of liability. I mean, it's ironic because Bayer entered into an agreement to settle most of the cases that had been brought. They'd already paid out money damages to many of the people who brought cases where they'd gone to trial or they settled. There weren't that many cases that depended on this ruling with respect to Roundup. But of course they're celebrating that they just lost this, that we lost a way to hold them accountable. They will no longer face the jury awards they faced. And it could encourage bad corporate behavior. So I don't think we should be celebrating just because they may not have to answer for what they knew and what they didn't tell the public. And so it's, maybe they will be spared spending money for when they have harmed people. But society as a whole will not benefit from that.
Yeah, I also kind of took note of the fact this was a 7-2 decision. And if you really think about the Supreme Court these days, we often see 6-3 decisions. It was interesting that this was a 7-2.
Yes, it was. And it was disturbing. I think from the argument, there were more questions from justices who joined the minority in the majority that seemed to be troubled by the fact that Monsanto could be violating not just state standards of care, which were underlying the lawsuits, but also the federal requirement to make sure their labels were adequate to protect public health. But the way the majority read the statute, it deferred to the Environmental Protection Agency to make those judgments. From the public's perspective, that is a sad story because the Environmental Protection Agency is woefully backlogged in reviewing pesticides, particularly the older pesticides on the market, in acting on science that is emerging, that is showing harm, and even requiring testing for some kinds of harms like to thyroids or the cancer-causing potential of the whole product, which it doesn't even have evidence before it on those kinds of harms. And so this is something that is going to, I think, expose the public as a whole to much more harm than would have otherwise happened.
Attorney Goldman, thank you so much for joining us here on the show today. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Take care. It's 1:31, everyone. Really interesting discussions thus far. That's another one where this time of year, everybody's out in their yards and taking care of their yards, and you just kind of, the more we know about that, in terms of that ruling, the more questions you do have about maybe the precedent that it will set moving forward here. All right, we are gearing up for another conversation about technology, prices on the rise in this generation of AI. We're going to bring in our Fox News technology reporter, Eben Brown, right after this quick break. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be back. All right, welcome back, everyone. Just about 1:35 right now, and millions of people. I wanted to say most, but I know it's. I don't know if it's most. Millions of people, though, have Apple products, and so when you see that Apple is raising prices on just about anything, you're like, wait a minute. Give me the details. Let's get into that now with Eben Brown, Fox News technology reporter, because Macs, iPads, amid the AI boom are going up in price. What's going on here?
Good afternoon. Good to be back with you. And yes, these very loved pieces of technology are getting a bit more expensive. And why is that happening? If they're so expensive already, why are the prices going up even more? In some cases, a few $100s for your favorite piece of Apple tech. It has to do with semiconductors. These are the little bitty computers that go inside the bigger computers that make everything work. And there is only so many that can be manufactured at once. And they come from certain areas. Taiwan is one of the big suppliers of semiconductors, although they are investing in production facilities in the United States. They're not up and running yet. It's going to take some years to do that. So because there is a demand, an increase in demand for semiconductors with the building out of AI and data center infrastructure, it means that those now come at a premium. So the companies that build the consumer tech, the phones, the tablets, the computers, the watches and the ear pods and the everything else, they now have to pay a premium for those, and those prices then get passed off to the consumer. So Apple had to make that unfortunate announcement this week that some pieces of their tech will have immediate price increases. That is probably not going to be a welcome thing for so many people to hear, but it is a reality. And I suspect that the makers of other technology, consumer tech, things like for instance, Samsung, makers of Android phones, will probably also see some similar price increases coming up soon as well, because they all have to buy many of the same, semiconductors from the same suppliers. So that's kind of where we are with that. And, this may push some people to reconsider making that Apple purchase or holding off and maybe seeing if they can wait another year before they upgrade their favorite tech and get the newer thing. But ultimately, I think Apple devotees are kind of used to paying higher prices anyway. Usually they make the excuse that the aesthetic is better, that the security and reliability is better than the tech coming from other manufacturers. But yes, it is even going to cost that much more.
Wow. I mean, you covered a few things that I wanted to key in on. And
Sure.
so in saying immediate, all right, so it's not like, hey, this is on the way. Go get what you need right now before the price goes up. There's no, we can rush out now.
No, I mean, you might find some holiday sales here and there at your retailer or whatnot, because we have the July 4th weekend coming up and all of that. But ultimately, those retail prices have gone up on a couple of those products already. For instance, one of the things that Apple debuted recently that was actually quite popular was this MacBook Neo. It was kind of a scaled down and smaller version of the MacBook. It was considered to be a new entry level way for people to buy a portable Macintosh computer. We usually use the term full term Macintosh anymore, but Mac computer, one that's a laptop. It had been selling for $599. It's now up to $699. Now it's an extra $100. You might be saying to yourself, okay, I can swing that $100, but not everyone may be in a position to do that. And they thought that perhaps the MacBook Neo would be within their reach, and maybe now they want to take an extra month or two to save up a few extra bucks to get it, or reconsider the idea of financing it or charging it. MacBook Air is the next step up from that. It was it was $1,099. It's now $1,299. And MacBook Pro, which of course is the top grade of things, it's used for more professional applications, especially having to do with media production and software creation and coding and things like that. It was selling for $1,699. It's now $1,999. So that's a $300 increase. Other things like iPads. iPad Air was $599. Now it's $749. iPad Pro, again, that higher level piece of technology dependent or designed really for professional applications. It was $999, meaning $1,000. It's now up to $1,199. So it's a $200 increase. And then other tech that you may have around your house, Apple TV, those little boxes that you plug into the TV to be able to get streaming services. That's gone up as well, just about, I think, $70. HomePod, the home speaker that Apple has had for a while. It's not quite as popular, say, as Amazon's Alexa, but it was $299. It's now $349, so it's a $50 increase. And Vision Pro, which is a thing that almost most people really don't have. It's the big, super big goggles that allow for the immersive augmented reality experience for Apple. They're expensive to begin with. They were $34.99. They're now $36.99. Again, I'm not so sure how many people are really buying these for everyday stuff. They haven't proven to be so popular, but if you want them, they're going to be a little bit more money now.
And I remember the semiconductor conversation when tariffs were a big part of the conversation now, months ago. But so we're still seeing this. And how long do you think it'll be before more of the manufacturing does come back to the U.S. to alleviate some of this?
I think it'll still be a few years. The big companies, like, for instance, Taiwan Semiconductor, that's the big kahuna one. President Trump had announced previously that the company was agreeing to build fabrication facilities, a lot of them in Arizona, I believe, or somewhere out west, where they can produce mass quantities of these things, and to do so domestically here in the United States, for sale in the United States, for sale for technology that would be further built in the United States. And that would, of course, alleviate tariff concerns. But the other concern, of course, is just quantity, right? With so much demand on the manufacturing of semiconductors for a lot more things now, and namely, this has to do with AI and data center build out. That AI is not going to go away. It's not going to evaporate. And AI lives in these data centers, these massive facilities with extremely supercomputing capabilities. Well, they all need semiconductors and lots of them. So the Apple companies that are, or the Samsungs or whatever, that are manufacturing the tech that you use every day. Again, a phone, a tablet, a computer, a TV, maybe a smart appliance for your home, such as a smart stove or a smart dishwasher or a smart clothes dryer. Yes, those do exist for some reason. I even have a supposedly smart coffee maker. I'm not exactly sure why it needs to be connected to the internet. I haven't figured that part out yet, but that's how it came. But all of those things use semiconductors, and now we have to share that demand with these big industrial companies building out these very, very large data centers. So, yes, we want to have more of these things built in America because, of course, it's American jobs, and it'll help our domestic economy without a doubt. But the world just simply needs more of them because they are a resource. And when that resource becomes finite, like it is right now, it does cause prices for those things to go up, and that eventually always gets passed down to the consumer.
Okay. All right. That's kind of the state of our world, as you put it.
Yeah, it is. And, the thing is that at some point people consider these things to be luxuries, and perhaps maybe they are. I remember as a kid, I could make plans on Wednesday to meet people in the city on Saturday, and we didn't talk until we met up on Saturday. There wasn't this constant, I'm getting on the train, I'm going to be there, and we're still running, and okay, we pulled into the station, and I'm walking as you're texting and all of that stuff. So to a degree, yes, these things are kind of luxuries. But they've also become a way that we now live our lives, right? We do our banking through it. We check our, did we get paid this week, right? Did our paycheck come through? We check, we use these things to check on it. I know plenty of people that do all their personal business over, let's say, a phone or a tablet and don't have I'm going to use this word here, traditional computer with a big monitor and a big keyboard sitting down at a desk. They don't need it, right? So they are becoming less luxurious and more a necessity. But just as we don't upgrade our clothes washer every other year, I mean, we still keep them about 10 years or so until they die out and we buy another one, right? People may try to keep their personal tech a little bit longer, not get that new phone or new tablet every year, every other year. Maybe they can stretch it 3 or 4 years. I just got this phone last year. This is the iPhone 17 Pro Max, but I had the 13 Pro Max for a long time. I guess that was 4 years. That was probably the longest I kept a phone. Because I just didn't want to spend the money on something new just yet. Wasn't really convinced it was necessary until, the 13 Pro Max really wasn't holding a battery charge anymore. I'm like, all right, it's time.
That's it.
So we may see ourselves do more and more of this as these pieces of tech become more expensive.
Yeah, it always feels like something starts going a little amiss. When there's a new shiny object out there and you're like, now, why isn't mine working the way it was just a couple months ago? Evan, we always appreciate having you here. You are so knowledgeable about all of these things. So thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Take care. Have a good weekend. About 1:45, everyone. Before we go to break here, we started off the hour talking about one of our trending topics online, that Chicago boat crash in Lake Michigan. I'm going to give you a couple more that we are seeing a lot of people click on right now. One takes us to City Hall, the big decision, a conversation, let me say, because there hasn't been a decision yet, but a big conversation around the parking meters. It's widely believed that the parking meter deal from the Daley administration was one of the worst deals in Chicago history. So now we're getting this information that Chicago, under the Brandon Johnson administration, reportedly bid $3.3 billion to buy back parking meters, and the aldermen now are demanding answers. In fact, last night on Chicago Report, we spoke with Alderman Beal as he walked us through a bit of this discussion here. Chicago city officials now confirming that they did submit a bid to buy back the parking meter system before it was sold in 2008. The company looking to buy the parking meters says that that bid was $3.3 billion. And even just saying the company is saying that the city bid $3.3 billion is a bit of a rub in and of itself, because for so long, the city officials, the mayor, have said they couldn't talk about it because they were under an NDA. Is there an NDA? Is there not an NDA? Someone says the NDA expired. Others say, no, it didn't. There's a lot there, too. So that $3.3 billion is $800 million higher than its winning offer. So you also wonder, where are we going to get that money from? Were we going to borrow to do this? Lots of questions there. Several aldermen are now demanding answers, questioning why the bid was kept from city council and why the Johnson administration has provided so few details about the process. Again, we walk through it in this article online, what we know, dating back to the Daley administration here, the questions even about the company, the New York firm that's trying to take the remaining, I think, 57 years of this 75-year deal on. There have been some questions even about their background. The company is called Stone Peak. They said they want to be transparent, that they have nothing to hide, essentially, but there are several alders who've raised big concerns about their Stone Peak's overall business portfolio, and even more specifically about their ties to immigration enforcement. So we have that part here for you as well. We also are very clear about what we don't know yet, the questions we're still asking here on our website, and some of the responses that we've been getting back from Mayor Johnson, from Stone Peak, and others. And we talk about what's next. It's all laid out there for you on our website, so you can walk through it as we have been reporting on it and continuously updating that particular article there. Let's also take you outside, and before we go to break here, we want to show you what's going on over there at Soldier Field. Now look, of course, we don't know what's going on with the Bears yet, okay? So this has nothing to do with them. But you can see that there is some activity going down on the field right now. And we just learned that this is for the Ed Sheeran concert that's coming up. Oh, boy. We certainly hope that folks have fun, that this does not become a rained out event, that people are able to just go out there and sing all night. Ed Sheeran is so great. Oh, my goodness. I stop short of starting to sing myself, but folks are going to be swaying and having a good time, and we certainly hope that the weather will cooperate. We'll bring up one of our meteorologists. If you have tickets at home and you're wondering what is to come, we're going to bring up one of our meteorologists a little bit later on in the show, so stick with us for more on that. But let's say you have to go, you have to jet. We do have that information online as well. We have a great weather section on our website that you can click on, get all the information you need there as well if you're heading out before, 4 o'clock when we turn you over to the 4 o'clock news. So it is about 1:50 right now. Let's take a 2-minute break before we get into our next discussion here with the president for the American Library Association about the world's largest library event that is returning to our area very soon. Welcome back, everyone. We're coming up on 152 right now, and a huge event for the American Library Association as they are celebrating their 150th anniversary year with the world's largest library event. And we have the president of the association, Sam Helmick, who is joining me now. Thank you so much for being here.
It's an absolute delight. Thank you for letting me join you in Chicago.
Sam, I'm in 150 years as we celebrate the country's 250th is really amazing. What are you all planning in terms of a celebration?
Right, it's amazing to think about how libraries have always been part of the American story, whether you think about Jefferson, Madison, Franklin, who heavily invested in it so that our informed constituency would stay informed, right? Have access to information and therefore opportunity. And so to have that opportunity to reflect on our nation's birthday has been just tremendous. And then we have some wonderful speakers who will talk to us about a lot of the First Amendment practitioner work that we have many Americans doing all over the country. So Rachel Maddow and I will be having a conversation about the intersectionality of local information and libraries. But then Dr. Jill Biden's going to remind us about the importance of literacy and education in the information age. And so I'm just delighted to be here with about 15,000 of our members and supporters celebrating so much about libraries and their role in civil society.
15,000, and the role is certainly stamped in American history. But I would wonder, and I'm seeing the names, as you mentioned there, who are going to be joining you. How much of a conversation continuing the independence that you've had before is moving forward?
I think that's a great question. The American public continue to show up and tell us that they value autonomy, they value privacy, which is, essential for intellectual freedom and the pursuit of any type of information and educational growth that you would like to as an individual, the pursuit of liberty and happiness. And so I think we're going to be talking about what is the library's position, not only as a community anchor institution, but as foundational bedrock of civil society and democracy, particularly because our national security, our economic prowess really depend on us being literate and engaged in the global world of content and movement that is happening around us every moment. So I'm looking forward to talking about everything ranging from AI to the importance of having a teacher and a school library and an academic space, whether that be postgraduate or K through 12. And I'm really looking forward to talking about how librarians often serve as the firewall between pernicious policy and the communities that we are trying to serve in rural America, in urban America, and in private academic special and school libraries every single day.
You know what? I'm so glad that you mentioned kind of the different dynamics of different areas, because we did recently have a conversation about digital libraries, I believe it was, with our Illinois Library Association. And when I initially saw that, I'm like, wait, are we putting the libraries out of business? And then I'm like, no, for rural areas, these types of things expand access.
100%. And it's important for us to remember that stories connect us. So if I have folks in rural America who are getting a copy of a specific title on a bookmobile, and then there are folks in senior centers that are getting it digitally and they're able to have that conversation even on Zoom. The role of a library is to serve you where you organically exist in your community. And so we have a variety of ways of doing that. And digital has really just enhanced the portfolio of services that libraries have employed, even back to horses, right? To make sure that we're bringing information to you. So yeah, I really appreciate that point. And it really brings to mind the importance of regulating ebook prices and making sure our patrons and students' rights, their consumer rights, have a seat at the table. So some of the work we'll be talking about at the American Library Association is how we continue to maintain collections in a sustainable way, using our resources as effectively as possible.
Mm-hmm. What do you find most challenging as a conversation moving forward for libraries?
I think that's a great question too. As I continue to move through the nation and visit communities that are impacted so wonderfully by their libraries, some of them literally are the emergency center, right? This is where you get
Mm-hmm.
supplies and information. This is where you go into the basement when the winds and the weather storm through the community. What I'm finding is that really budgets are actions and values. Values and actions. So if we really care about something, if we care about our community and its literacy, if we care about our community and having spaces for teens to go after school and places for new families to learn how to navigate their child through information and help them with that lifelong development journey, we really need to invest in our libraries. And a federal report, GOA, came out in late December last year and told us that 80% of our public institutions haven't had any renovations or updates in over 2 decades, despite the
Wow.
fact that 50% of them are emergency centers. So that is the biggest conversation we will be having is how are we resourcing our values? Are our budgets values in action? Or are we not investing in American society like we did at the foundation of our nation?
That is a good discussion. Are there open conversations, open events to the public, or is this just for folks within your organization?
That's a great question too. So we are having conversations with practitioners. So this is
Mm-hmm.
really kind of a time when your library professionals can talk about the intersectionality between social work and public libraries and schoolwork and, like the science of reading. So we consider this to be like a very professional opportunity for us to kind of do some of that deep digging and
Mm-hmm.
think about what the future of libraries will be. But this is where the American Library Association's headquarters is. So having opportunities to connect with our communities and museums, going to the Obama Presidential Center, places where we get to engage in the public has been informing us. As a librarian from Iowa, I'm going to take the culture and the community and what the Chicago Public Library has brought to their community here back home with me. Or as we say in the business, borrow ideas.
I think one of my mentors years and years ago said there's really rarely any new ideas these days, so we get it. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it, and enjoy the conference.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, take care. It's 1:59, so take 2 minutes, everyone, and I'll let you know what's coming up in the second hour here on Chicago Live on this Friday. Welcome back now. We are in our 2 o'clock hour here on Chicago Live. Let's go into a few of the things that are to come in this hour. We are going to have our 5 p.m. producer, Sloan Salerno, who's going to let us know about some of the headlines that we're expecting them to, that they're working on right now downstairs to get ready to present for the evening shows. That'll be around 2:45. We have the one and only, much beloved, I always introduce him that way, Avi Loeb, who's going to be here with us, and he's going to be updating us on his time with Congress. He was just on a Senate forum, and so we're looking forward to hearing more of what he had to say and whether it was well received. Of course, our friend, the Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb, is always updating folks on unidentified anomalous phenomena. So we can't wait to pick his brain about how things went on Capitol Hill. Also, of course, we are a week away from 4th of July activities, and there will be so much going on, especially this year with it being the country's 250th birthday. And so many opportunities to learn a little bit more about history and the country's founding. And the Arlington Heights Historical Museum is inviting the community to celebrate the opening of their new exhibit. It's called Stars and Stories, and they are featuring a historic American flag with some deep roots. And so we'll talk to them about the history they're putting on display shortly. But we're going to start off this hour now with a discussion of a different kind here as we come into this hour and we look really at different laws that are going into effect come July 1st, of course, before July 4th. We have a lot of laws that are going into effect. And so we are glad to have State Senator Feigenholtz, who is joining us today. Sarah Feigenholtz, thank you so much for your time.
Hey, Perry, how are you doing?
Doing very well, and I know a lot of people will be feeling great about hearing this development here, this pandemic era allowance of cocktails to go that's now getting extended here through this law. Explain it for us.
So, Cocktails to Go was a law that was passed during COVID when all of the establishments, the restaurants had prepared for an onslaught of partying on St. Patrick's Day, and the mayor of the city of Chicago closed down all restaurants, and everybody had to cloister and go home, remember? So there's all this inventory on the shelves of these restaurants, and they were shut down. And we then developed delivering meals or people doing drive-bys and picking up meals, but the inventory of alcohol was just sitting there. So what many states had done was write a cocktails to go law, which is exactly what I did, because all of the bars and restaurants in my neighborhood were freaking out and saying, we've got to do this. And this was really a lifeline for them, Perry. I still get stopped on the street and thanked for passing Cocktails to Go in the Illinois General Assembly, but it had a sunset date on it. And we continued the sunset date just to make sure that it was working, that people were following. It's a pretty strict law. It requires an investment on the part of many establishments because of the kind of containers we put them in and how they are transported, and checking for ID to make sure that wherever they're being delivered to somebody who's of drinking age. Mm-hmm. So that was sort of the evolution of this. But what we have learned since is that all of those folks that were having cocktails to go delivered to their home continue to also entertain at their homes. And today, 28% of people are still utilizing this cocktails to go service. So we've made it permanent. On July 1st, Illinois will become the 32nd state in the country to make it permanent with no more sunsets. Just in time for the Gay Pride Parade.
That is true. That is true. Well, yeah. A lot of folks will celebrate this. There obviously the businesses, this is a huge boost to many small batch producers, to many small businesses.
It really is. I mean, when you think about the narrow margins that some of our retail restaurants survive on after and are still trying to come back from the pandemic, Illinois and Chicago especially is a destination for the culinary arts. We have the James Beard Awards. We have incredible chefs and a lot of innovation, a constant reinvention of the culinary arts. And we have to update our laws to reflect what the market is demanding. And that's exactly why we had to get rid of the sunset and make cocktails to go permanent.
Mm-hmm. And so, on the flip side of the celebrations, there are many who will wonder, how do you safeguard this? How do you make sure this doesn't contribute to drinking and driving or things of that nature? And you say?
Well, first of all, the reason we did sunsets is to make sure that none of that happened. But if you read the law the way it's written, the Illinois Liquor Control Commission, remember, was neutral on this. They were not opposed, and they did sort of help author it. And it's very restrictive, okay? It's not a flimsy styrofoam container with a lid and a straw. We need to use a rigid container. It's got to be sealed and labeled, and it's got to be transported by an employee of the business. There needs to be ID verification upon delivery. You can't just leave a cocktail on someone's porch. And it has to be carried in the back of the car. It cannot be in the front of the car. So if you read the underlying legislation that was initially passed, it's very strict. I used to joke around that it's easier to transport a bomb than it is a cocktail in Chicago. So we have had no complaints, and it's been at least 5 years since it first went into law, and I think people felt confident that it was time to make it permanent and join 31 other states who do this.
Well, I certainly hope that there are more stringent laws for the other thing that you mentioned there coming very soon. But as it pertains to this, I would also wonder, what about limits to how much could be transported?
We did not, I don't believe that the statute actually got into volume. I do believe that the labeling requires the amount of alcohol that is poured into the vessel or the rigid container, and what it is. Those were the initial requirements, and I do not think that has changed. But because of the sealing of the cocktail itself, volume or amount was never really required.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Well, thank you so much for joining us to talk a little bit more about this. I think it's important to hear it from you because people will hear cocktails to go, and they're probably going to think a lot of things other than what this actually legally stipulates.
Well, I mean, you've got people, this is a retailer who has a license, and the person delivering that cocktail has got to check and verify the age of the person receiving it. And like I said, it is a very strict law that was written very carefully. And to date, there have been no violations that I know of. The ILCC was not opposed to this. So I think that we have waited and tested. It has survived the test of time, and we're all feeling pretty good about it. And again, 31 other states are also doing this, so that also helped.
State Senator Sarah Feigenholtz from Illinois' 6th Senate District. Thank you so much. Wonderful speaking with you today.
Thanks for having me, Perry. Have a great weekend.
I'm Anita. Barry's the producer.
I'm sorry,
But great
Anita.
speaking with you. It's all right. It's all right. We're both here. It's a team effort. Take care. Have a great weekend. It's 2:11 right now. We're going to take a 2-minute break before we bring in our friends from Arlington Heights. No, not to talk about the Bears, but to talk about their new museum exhibit. Give us just 2 minutes and we'll be back. All right, welcome back, everyone. We're approaching 2:15, and of course, we are approaching the 4th of July, America's 250th, and lots of different things to see and to do. And Arlington Heights want to add one to the list. They have the historic American flag returning to public view at the Arlington Heights Historical Museum, and we're just so glad to have the museum director, Jeff Anderson, who is joining us here on the show to talk about the Stars and Stories Arlington Heights Old Glory exhibit. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about the exhibit.
And so when does it opens today? Am I right?
Yeah, today's going to be the grand opening. The museum opens to the public at 6 o'clock, 6 to 8, and then it'll be on display through Wednesday through Sunday through the remainder of the year.
Talk about bringing this back. I mean, what was the effort like, and the conversation about to get it to this point?
So the discussion started about 4 years ago when a member from the Historical Society wanted to display the flag for a different exhibit. When they looked at it, it wasn't in strong enough condition to be displayed. So it went back into storage. And 2 years later, when discussions came about the 250 anniversary and what could we do for that, the decision was made to conserve the flag so we can display it. So it's been a 4-year process that is all coming together tonight, and we're really excited to show it to everybody.
Wow. And so this exhibit features this historic American flag with deep roots in your area. Explain the deep roots.
So this flag is a 34-star American flag that dates it somewhere between 1861 and 1863. We know that it flew somewhere in what was called Dunton at the time, which is present-day Arlington Heights. And it flew until Lincoln's assassination, at which point it was preserved, we think possibly by the postmaster of Dunton at the time, and was handed down from postmaster to postmaster until the Arlington Heights Historical Society was founded, and it became one of the very first artifacts that they collected. So it's one of the oldest artifacts in the collection. It's one of the largest artifacts in the collection. It's 10 foot by 6 foot. It's a massive flag.
Wow, wow. And why was it out of view to the public for so long?
The flag was, we're sure, was brought out periodically, probably for 4th of July events early on. Our records don't show us having shown it in at least the last decade. When we did look at it, the flag was in need of some care. It was not stable enough to be able to be displayed. We're lucky enough that Historical Society and a local nonprofit called the Questers raised enough funds that we could have a professional conservator basically stabilize the flag to the point where we can display it finally.
And when you say stabilize the flag, what does that mean? What is a conservation effort for the American flag like?
So by conserving the flag, you're basically making it so it's you're protecting it from where that might occur to it. It's now been attached to a linen sheet so that it can keep its dimensions correctly. The entire flag's been covered with a wire mesh that is the same color as the flag itself, so you don't actually see it when you look at the flag. So if pieces of the flag were to come off, it actually stays on the flag. So it was basically cleaned. There was at one point a process where they put Scotch tape on it, trying to deal with one of the rips in it. All that was removed off of it, and just a proper museum quality archival material was used in its new housing.
Wow, that seems like quite the lengthy effort. And just, I mean, off the top of my head, it was the conservator right here in Illinois. I mean, I wouldn't think there's a whole lot of people with that title around the country.
Yeah, we used a conservator from Chicago that was recommended by another museum institution. Her name's Carla. She's actually going to be here tomorrow, along with myself and our curator, to talk about the flag from 2 to 3 at a presentation we're having. So she'll kind of really get into details about what she did in conserving this flag.
Quite the conversation, I'm sure. I'm intrigued already to learn more from her. What are you hoping really comes from these types of discussions, and especially right now?
So with this particular flag, it's the American Civil War is such an important piece of American history, and the fact that Arlington Heights has such an amazing piece that ties back to that historic event. It just highlights the length of the history that Arlington Heights has had. It's a wonderful old town, and this flag is really kind of encapsulates just the importance of the people that served at that time. We know a number of people from Dunton served during the Civil War, and the importance of remembering them and those situations that they were in, and the sacrifices they made. So later this year, we plan to highlight those people from the Civil War that served, in addition to the flag display. So just multiple programs around the same object.
Yeah, you obviously, as a museum director, have an appreciation for history. It does, in this day and age when everything is flashy and we've got a million different devices and everything. What's most frustrating for you about people's attention spans, or even their thirst for more knowledge about these types of things?
It's like is that people who come to museums and they get a decent experience, and they have a history class, and they have a history teacher that can really portray history in a fun and engaging light. People tend to love it at that point. So if people can come in and engage with this artifact, engage with the staff that are as passionate as I am, usually those people become what we call museum people. But if they go into a place and they get a bad experience, or they have somebody who teaches it in a way they don't like, history kind of gets a bad reputation. History is amazing. It just depends on how you present it.
Very good perspective. Yeah, I really like that response. And how long is this exhibit going to be around?
So it opens tonight at 6, and we will have it up through the remainder of this year as our connection to America 250. And then we'll bring it down sometime next year and hopefully bring it up for the next giant anniversary we have here in Arlington.
And along the way, are you going to have some other speakers that come?
We do have a couple of people presenting besides Saturday, where me and a few other people will be talking about the flag. We have a number of other programs planned for later this year on topics related to, but not directly connected to the flag, basically ways to connect to America 250.
What excites you most as a museum director about America's 250?
Just the amount of things that we've accomplished in the last 250 years, going from a country who was just trying to say, hey, we want to do it ourselves and be on our own, to fighting to become one nation, to what we're kind of even going through today, which is deciding what direction does everybody want to go. But history is cyclical. It changes and keeps coming back around again. And understanding it can give you an idea of where things might go in the future. So that's what I love about history.
There's never a dull moment, really. If you really think about it, there's always something that can be learned, gleaned, and there's so much history in Illinois.
Oh, I totally agree. Illinois is a fantastic state when it comes to its history, especially when you deal with Civil War connections. It's actually a personal interest of mine, the amount of the role that especially Chicago played during the Civil War. It's fascinating when you start really digging into it.
What do you think, after all this time, would be still a little known piece of history that you all have there at the museum, or that you want people to know more about?
What we'd love people to come out and see is just uh, Arlington Heights has 3 buildings that are on the National Register of Historic Places, and I'm so honored to be able to be in charge of 2 of those, with the Muller House and the Bonta House. And we have a 1900 soda pop factory, which is what we operate out of. It's just a really fun place to be, with a lot of really interesting artifacts that we try to display throughout the year.
Sounds very cool. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope that people are visiting you all year round. But I would also hope, and I would think that this America 250, and you can tell me, is it increasing the interest in people coming out?
America 250 for the last 2 years, especially for museum professionals like myself, has been one of the biggest topics. So I know that across the country, people like myself have been very busy trying to make sure we have something to present, because there is a huge interest in America's past, and this is a big celebration that everybody gets to share in. So we're just honored to be a part of it.
Thank you so much for your time today. Have a great weekend and great opening night.
Thank you so much for having us. We appreciate it.
Take care. And again, everyone, that's starting up at 6 o'clock this evening, when they're going to be putting this historic American flag on display there at the Arlington Heights Historical Museum. They've done a lot of work to get it this far, and I'm sure a lot of folks are going to come out to learn more about that journey. And you've got more time, but this weekend it sounds like they're going to really do some very special things as we get ready for the big celebration of America's 250th. The following weekend. It's about 2:25. We're going to take 2 minutes before we get into our next discussion, and I'm also going to give you just a couple of the headlines that are trending on our website. welcome back, everyone. 2:27 right now as we gear up for our next conversation. Let me go over some of the very interesting things that we're seeing online here. First and foremost, let's talk about the Bulls, okay? We just got an information that the Chicago Bulls are announcing a new minority investment. Okay, I mean, that might not sound that exciting until you hear it's by Lucas and Samantha Walton. Are you getting where we're going here even further? Okay, Walton of like Walmart, acquiring a minority interest in the Chicago Bulls and the United Center. So this purchase, the transaction involves existing stakes from certain limited partners here. The Reinsdorf family is going to continue to hold the controlling interest in the Bulls. They said they have a long-standing commitment to the organization, of course, but the Reinsdorf and Wirtz families will have that controlling interest in the United Center as well. Of course, the big conversation around the United Center right now, not just the Bulls, but the 1901 project. So this is really big, and the timing of it very interesting here. As Lucas and Samantha Walton expressed their enthusiasm for this partnership now, and they say their investment in Chicago's West Side. All right. So they talk about the fact that it's iconic, and the transaction, they say, reflects the dedication to the city's future. They said that we have long admired the vision the Reinsdorf and Wirtz families have set forth for the 1901 project, and we look forward to the United Center's continued positive impact on Chicago's West Side. This is pretty huge here, and a very interesting development again as we look at what's going on around the United Center. Yes, the conversation this week about the Bulls really has revolved around the coach, the new coach, Tiago, and then also the NBA draft and the new players that they just got. But the conversation just from last week and the week before that, surrounded the 1901 project. So very, very interesting development here to see the Walton family teaming up with the Wirtz and Reinsdorf families for more development there on Chicago's West Side. All right, let's talk about a couple of the things that are trending on our website. And first and foremost, I've got to tell you about an unfortunate situation, but one that got a lot of people's attention. 2 men killed in a shooting on Chicago's Northwest Side, and we started to see rumblings of this yesterday afternoon, right around 3:30 p.m. A lot of people saying this is an area where they have not had, any issues in a while. And when I say a while, meaning they kind of thought that things were turning around for the neighborhood. And so I believe it's Dunning is the neighborhood right there. And so, it raises alarm bells when you see something like this happen, and especially right in the middle of the afternoon. This was in the 7800 block of West Cahill Terrace. And there's a 20-year-old man and then a second victim whose age we still don't know at this point in time, that were taken to Advocate Lutheran General Hospital in critical condition, and then they later died. So police have not released information about a suspect or a motive. Another reason why people are very alarmed about what took place there in the middle of the afternoon. No arrests have been made, and detectives are investigating right now. But we have more information on our website about where this happened, what people are saying, what we know, what we're still working to get information on right now. So you can check that out there, as many people already have. I always tell folks right now, too, a big portion of our website is dedicated to what is on our air right now. We are online, but what's on our air is FIFA World Cup. So we have you fully covered online for the FIFA World Cup, and how to watch many of the matches, where to go, even in terms of many of the watch parties. We've had our sports team and reporters out at many of the watch parties, and it's gotten pretty, let's just say, fun. at the watch parties, especially right now as Team USA. I mean, yes, we just took a loss, but it wasn't a loss that was detrimental to us, if that makes sense, because we're continuing on. We had already locked the spot, and so we're continuing on. So I believe Team USA didn't even play all of our starters in the last game, just kind of resting them up for what is to come because they had already locked their position in moving forward. So there's plenty of information on our website about FIFA World Cup that we are in the midst of, the FIFA fever right now that's going on throughout our country as the games have been kind of, going from one city to the next, although not here. And we had hoped. That's a long story. Anyway, dating back several years why we don't have FIFA here in our area. But anyhow, maybe next time. I don't know when that's going to be, when the U.S. has it again. But also on our website, another one of those stories that really is one hard to tell, important to know kind of situation here. A lawsuit alleging that a former Gary police commander groomed teens and in particular an intern. So this is a former Gary Police Department summer intern that's now filed a federal lawsuit alleging that the former commander, James Bond, groomed the teen, sent sexually explicit content, and caused emotional distress during that internship here. The lawsuit alleges that the city of Gary failed to protect the 17-year-old and retaliated even after the alleged misconduct was reported. And so this person is now seeking at least $300,000 in damages. It is important to note, I mean, yes, these are allegations in a federal lawsuit, but it's a maybe even more serious situation because this former commander was indicted in 2024 on separate child exploitation charges tied to the city's summer youth program. So there were problems there for sure. We just don't know what the outcome of this particular suit will be. It's unclear whether the plaintiff in this lawsuit is the same alleged victim from 2024 in the indictment, but there's a lot here. And so you can go through the allegations, what the city of Gary is saying, what we do know, what we're still working to get. All of that is on our website as well at fox32chicago.com. Let's move forward with our conversations, though, here on the show, because we have the one and only, much beloved Harvard astronomer, our friend Avi Loeb, who's gone big time, but still makes time for us here on Chicago Live. Happy Friday to you, sir.
Very good to join you. I'm delighted to.
Great to see you yet again. And I hear you were on Capitol Hill for this UAP disclosure forum with Congress. So tell us a little bit about it.
Well, we held a UAP disclosure forum organized by the UAP Disclosure Foundation in the Kennedy Caucus Room, which is looking just like a cathedral. It's quite an amazing place where the Titanic was reported in 1912, where JFK and RFK announced themselves as presidential candidates in 1960, 1968, and where the Watergate hearings took place in 1973, 74. So it's a very historic place. And depending on what we might find, it may well be that this UAP disclosure discussion is also a historic event, because apparently the Pentagon and the intelligence agencies have data on objects they cannot identify. These hover over strategic assets, and it's really important to figure them out. And of course, if it turns out that they're not human-made, and they are technological, that would imply that there is a neighbor that is visiting us, and that would have huge implications for religion, society at large, economics, and the psychology of human existence. And all of these aspects were discussed. I was attending the science panel since recently, as you alluded to, I was tasked in leading a UAP Science Advisory Council to the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the White House, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office in the Pentagon, the FBI, the intelligence community. And the goal is for us to resolve the nature of UAP. And at the very least, this is a serious matter that attends to national security, that we have to help the Pentagon in fulfilling their mission to protect the nation. And so as an American citizen, I feel privileged to contribute to that. I should also mention that historically, this is a very significant development, because next to me on the panel was Hal Patoff, and he kept saying that in the past, the government was not willing to cooperate with the scientific community at large, and they may have had even materials that could have been analyzed by leading scientists, but that was not allowed, and they were kept in secrecy. And so now, of course, thanks to President Trump's directive, the mindset of government is quite different, and we should celebrate this time when we can get to the bottom of it and figure it out. And I think it's very exciting, because any kind of anomaly is an opportunity potentially to gain new knowledge. And I was interviewed on a podcast by Representative Eric Burlison after the discussion ended in the Senate, and I told Representative Burlison that the best approach is not to guess what these things are, but rather behave like a kid with an open mind, not fearing of non-traditional explanations, but without any prejudice, and just trying to get as much data as possible to guide us. This is not a philosophical question. It's not a religious question as to what these objects are, and we should not put labels on the objects, but rather just figure them out as like a detective would in a mysterious case where we currently are in a state of uncertainty. And by the way, I also pointed out that uncertainty is the most common state of research, scientific research, because most of the time you just don't have enough information. You are trying to figure it out. Getting more data helps us. And what you find in textbooks is those rare moments of tranquility where we reach a conclusion, but these are really rare moments. And working as a scientist, one should not fear of a situation of uncertainty. In fact, it's intriguing, it's challenging, inspiring, and we hope to figure it out. And the other thing is, when you detect signals, I mean, science is not about noticing signals, it's more about distinguishing signals from known phenomena, from noise. And so the challenge is really to tell whether these orbs that are reported about are potentially drones from adversarial nations, or something else that is natural, or flares, compared to something from another world. And so we will see. Time will tell. But one thing I can promise is that I will try to make the future better than the past, and I will not let it slip away. If we can make progress, I will just pursue it with as much attention and rigor as I can give it. And because I'm that kind of a person, I would not surrender to manipulations by anyone.
When you mention the Trump directive, what we're talking about is to release the files. Do you feel like we've really gleaned that much from the files that have been released thus far?
No, I think my assessment is that the publicly available data is not clear, it's not good enough. It could be explained as human-made technology so far. But there is a lot of information redacted. And so my council met last week, and we placed a request for at least 50 items of new information to be released. And of course, we will not get all of it because some of it was collected by classified censors. And therefore, it makes a lot of sense that the government will not release the data because it will inform adversarial nations of the capabilities that our censors have. So it's more about the classified censors than about the targets that we're dealing with. But I think that it's sufficient to have one example where we have exquisite data with very clear knowledge of the circumstances that would allow us to do a very detailed analysis. And by the way, the council that I'm leading will only look at unclassified data. That's a great benefit because it will allow us to communicate in a transparent way with the public, the scientific community. We might actually write scientific papers as a result of the analysis that we perform. And we will obviously inform everyone if there is something unusual that we notice.
And, you know, when you talk about like keeping an open mind and, you know, staying away from bias, but just having the open mind of a child, like, you know, being curious about these things. I mean, obviously we're in a time period when we're getting more and more of the Hollywood movies. I mean, you were even in a movie recently, but, you know, that many of them at the end, there is some reveal.
Yes.
Well, I mean, how close do you think we are to like a reveal?
Well, first I should say, you know, Steven Spielberg that has had the Disclosure Day come out recently, he was under an obligation to provide red meat to the audience, so the audience will be happy, have some pleasure, because the audience paid to see the movie. I'm under no such obligation, you know, in the sense that I cannot use artistic freedom to come up with a plot that would bring pleasure to the audience. This is not my objective. We have to keep our eyes on the orbs, not the audience. And therefore, the quality of what we can deliver will depend on the quality of the data. But this does not mean that our conclusions will be boring, because I think that reality might be far more imaginative than we are. The best example for that is the discovery of quantum mechanics. Nobody anticipated that. And then even after it was discovered, Albert Einstein, the most celebrated physicist, had a hard time accepting quantum mechanics in the way that we understand it now, because he was locked in traditional thinking about it. And Niels Bohr, a younger physicist, was willing to be open-minded, and he was right about it. And so that's why in the council I started by assembling a group of young scientists that do not have baggage. You know, the first challenging question in the panel that I attended was, why didn't you put Hal Patov on your council? He was sitting next to me, and obviously for decades he was engaged in government programs related to these UAP. And I explained that, in fact, the reason I didn't do that is because I wanted to have a fresh look at this problem with, in collaboration with young scientists that do not have prejudice, are not locked to traditional ideas. We will basically be guided by the data, just like a kid trying to figure out reality. And of course, if it turns out that reality is very different than previous generations imagined, you know, they will have to adapt to it. But having young members in my team allows me to venture ahead. Of course, I get a lot of slings and arrows in my direction from both sides, from conservative scientists who are upset that I even pay attention to these anomalies. They say, well, there is nothing there, but they do it without even looking at the data. And there are, of course, those believers that already know the answer, that we're being visited. And I'm gladly, I have a lot of experience. I don't get affected much by these attacks from both sides. I'm just focused completely on collecting the data or encouraging the government to get new data such that we will get to the bottom of it and find the answer. And I think it's a win-win situation. Everyone will benefit from this process because the government will be able to have a sigh of relief if it turns out that these are mundane phenomena or that we improved the security of strategic assets. And of course, the scientific community, eventually, if we end up finding that some objects are extraterrestrial, they would celebrate that. So I don't really care what people are saying right now. We are just focused on figuring things out. And the council is composed of exceptional individuals that I really enjoy working with.
Okay, one last question before I let you go. And, you know, there are some who wonder, especially now that we're getting some of these, you know, the documents, even if they're redacted, if the government has recovered some things that have not been explained thus far, right? How would the scientific community verify that it is what we think it is?
Well, that's an excellent question, and the answer is simple. You know, these objects do not go away. They probably exist for a while. We just noticed them recently because dealing with, you know, decades, you know, that's a very short time scale relative to cosmological timescales, which are measured in billions of years. So it's very likely that if they existed over the past few decades, they will continue to exist. And of course, we can find more about them by continuing to monitor the sky with even better sensors. Once we know their qualities, then we can design an observing strategy. You know, in many cases in science, the first detection was challenging because people didn't expect it. But once you know what you're looking for, it's much easier because then you tailor your experimental setup to look at it. And the other thing I should say is that if we humans represent the highest intelligence ever created, that would be quite a disappointment, you know, given how vast the universe is. Because surely, you know, if you read the daily news, you realize that there is a lot of room for improvement. We are not that intelligent. You know, we're investing most of our resources in conflicts, in gaining a small piece of territory or winning a battle with other humans on this rock that we were born on. And our biggest ambitions right now is going to another rock, like the moon or Mars, whereas, you know, the Milky Way galaxy is so vast. I mean, we should go interstellar. That would be the real vision. We haven't developed it yet in our space agencies. So I would argue that encountering a visitor who accomplished that would, first of all, demonstrate that it's possible and encourage us and inspire us to do better. It will serve as a role model for us. And I don't believe that we are at the top of the food chain, cosmologically speaking.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you as always. We could ask you questions all day, but we've got to let you go. Professor Avi Loeb, once again, we appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Take care. Keep us updated. All right, everyone, give us 2 minutes, and we're going to bring in meteorologist Mark Strahl. I'm seeing some umbrellas up and some hats that just went on, so we'll talk about the weather changing before our eyes. Okay, welcome back, everyone. 2:53. Mark Strell is here, and Mark, things are devolving outside a bit.
They're devolving. Devolving never sounds like a good direction to
Right,
go into,
exactly.
does it?
Yeah, what's going on?
Well, we do have a couple of sprinkles, a couple of showers. You know, they're not going to be a big deal, though,
Good.
so that's good news. I was looking at some of the early forecast discussions from earlier today. You know, as all the meteorologists get around and circle.
A huddle.
In the meteorology. Can you imagine what that's like?
A lot of numbers.
A lot of nerds hanging out, talking clouds and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm one of them. But at any rate, they were talking about how they didn't even think, no, this is early this morning, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, how anything would even come up north of Interstate 80, and obviously it has. So, you know, that's kind of the level of forecasting we're at. Now, that's actually a little cloud cover coming in off the lake here this afternoon. Little level of cloud cover, and it's always, you know, it's always kind of cool to see.
It is cool, yeah. You know, you kind of get socked into it.
Kind of looks like at first like a, you know, science fiction movie. Like, oh my goodness, it's the cloud that ate New York City. Well, in our case, Chicago. New York, you can have the science fiction cloud all you want, but you know, that's not really a major deal. The rainfall that's coming down now, not a major deal. Although, you know, we're knocking at the door at 3 o'clock, and even a sprinkle at drive time, that can create some issues.
Very true.
So there is that. But the rainfall that we see right now, pretty minor, not too much of a deal. We'll have it kind of off and on through the evening. The further north you go, the lesser chances you'll see of that rainfall. And then we have a pretty decent weekend coming our way.
Nice, okay.
Yeah, we're talking about 70s tomorrow, mid-80s on Sunday, and then...
It's ticking up.
And then, yeah, you saw the 90s there. So you can see the fronts way down to our south. And there's that cloud shield. It's right over Chicago. If you go up north into, you know, southern Wisconsin, not much going on there at all. So we kind of on the northern fringe of that. This is the weekend as we take you through. So this is Saturday, and maybe Saturday night could be a rogue shower. Our forecast model's not really expressing that very much. But then notice that little red line on there. Here's a little trivia for you. On the blue line, there's triangles, and on the red line, there's little semicircles. They have names. For $1,000, can you tell me what they're called? Like I have $1,000.
Since you don't have $1,000 to pay me, you should just keep talking.
The little blue, they're called pips and barbs. The little red ones are called pips, the little circles, and the little blue ones are called barbs. So, you know, again, when we're in our little meteorological huddle, someone came up with pips and barbs. Use that on trivia night, or entertain your friends and family this weekend over a cocktail. So tonight we are cloudy. We're down to about 60 degrees. Enjoy the 60 degrees because we don't have many more of those coming. Tomorrow temperatures upper 70s. I'm showing 77 here, and that's because of that little east-northeast breeze off the lake. I think you get out to O'Hare, it's going to be closer to 80. Fox Valley could be into the low 80s, partly sunny skies, partly sunny to mostly cloudy. And then on Sunday, look at that, we're all the way up to 85 at that point, more clouds pushing in. And here comes, you know, this is kind of the difficult part because, you know, we all want summer, we all want warm temperatures, we all want to go to the beach, we want to hang out at the pool, but we're talking about some potentially dangerous conditions here as we go up to 96. On Tuesday, 97 degrees. On Wednesday, we stay in the mid and upper 90s, largely throughout the 7-day forecast, and maybe into the following week, maybe into the 4th of July week. Now, I say that's dangerous. I mean, you look at 96 and 87, and you might go, Mark, come on, we've lived through that before. Sure, we have. But it's the humidity levels. We're going to have a high humidity level coming in from the Gulf Coast, a lot of moisture. Not enough moisture for showers and thunderstorms, but enough moisture for high humidity. So the heat index, probably without breaking a sweat, up to 105, it's possible we could have the heat index all the way up to 110 degrees. And that is where it does get dangerous, especially, you know, now most of us have air conditioning, most of us have fans, but for, you know, some people that don't, or, you know, the folks that are laying asphalt, or maybe they're putting up some roofs on a, you know, some shingles on a roof. These, you know, potentially very dangerous conditions.
Wow. So I'm sure we'll be hearing about like cooling centers very soon. And
guess what
like
we'll be reporting on next week?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. 110.
110 for the heat index, yeah.
And all this week, we're looking at people with jackets outside right now. Oh, Chicago.
Yeah, that's the way it rolls. I always, when I think of this extreme weather, I think of like the Native Americans that lived here like 300 years ago. What were they thinking? They had a day where, the breeze was coming in off the lake. They saw stuff like this. Temperatures may have struggled to get out of the 50s or 60s some days. And then like a day or two later, it feels like 110.
Yeah.
I bet they wish they had a weatherman.
You know what? They probably did.
They probably did.
They
right?
probably did.
Yeah, they probably looked at the moon and, watched the animals, right?
Yeah. Did it
Probably
a lot different, but I'm sure they had their way.
Probably stuff that we don't even know about.
Yeah. That scientists are still trying to figure out,
Right,
and
exactly.
historians are still trying to write. Thank you so much for coming up. We appreciate it. What cool pictures we have outside. That's the thing about Chicago. It really doesn't matter what the weather is doing. We're always getting like cool pictures outside.
Right.
It's just such a beautiful city that you're always getting, beautiful pictures out there. But yeah, we wish we saw. Look, we could say on this Friday, like, oh, I wish I saw a little bit more. You're going to get plenty of sun next week.
Yeah, you will.
So maybe a little too much. So, we'll go from one part of the conversation to the next. Thank you for coming up,
You're quite welcome.
keeping us up to date as we get ready for the weekend. Everybody give us 2 minutes. We'll be back. I'll let you know what's coming up in our final hour here at Chicago Live for the day. With our conversations for this hour before we turn you over to the 4 o'clock news, and we're going to talk about the Long Grove Strawberry Festival. We look forward to it every year. I mean, it's kind of like if you think about Forrest Gump when he was going over all the different kind of shrimp you could have. That's what it's like for the Long Grove Strawberry Fest. Anything you can think of doing with strawberries, they're doing with strawberries, and we see it each year. Fortunately, I don't have like the whole array here in front of me, but I mean, it just to see it makes you hungry, so you got to go out there and experience it for yourself. It's just amazing, all of the different things that they come up with, the vendors that come in, the farmers that are there, and the setup that they have. A long-running, wonderful festival in our area, and so we'll talk with them about that around 3:45. Also, there was one of our local representatives who really had a celebration yesterday in terms of a bill that went through that Governor Pritzker signed yesterday. In fact, we watched the signing ceremony live here on Chicago Live with Governor Pritzker and Attorney General Kwame Raoul, and there were many other legislators who were standing around them for that signing ceremony, eliminating junk fees. Now, the ceremony was really billed. There was a package of bills that all they kind of described as consumer protection bills, and one of those bills in the package was the junk fee elimination law. Think about when you go to buy something and you say, "Oh, it's going to be $15," and then when you hit purchase, all of a sudden it's like 25. What just happened here? That's not what I agreed to. Okay, so we'll get into junk fee elimination around 3:30. We also kind of go over one of the stories that's trending on our website, one or two of the stories that are trending on our website. I'll let you know some of the things also that our reporters are set up to work on for the day as well. Some very interesting stories that they're working on for the day. We'll talk about it coming up here shortly. But we're starting off with tourism in the city of Chicago. I mean, we have been talking about, many of the festivals, and we took you live over to Soldier Field as they were setting up for the Ed Sheeran concert. And what those who work in the industry of tourism here is money, 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 money. I mean, all of those things bring people here to our area to enjoy our wonderful city and to spend money in it, to keep things going year round. And so we want to bring in Stephen Crano, Senior Manager of Corporate Communications at Choose Chicago. Always love speaking with you, sir, and especially when the headline says we've welcomed 56.8 million tourists last year.
That's right. And that does spell a lot of money, 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 as you said.
Yeah, breaking a $21.5 billion, the spending limit that we had from before. I mean, this is pretty amazing.
Yes. So that nearly 57 million visitors who we welcomed in Chicago last year drove a record $21.5 billion in direct economic impact. So, I mean, what that means is those are the hotel rooms, the restaurants they're eating at, the cultural institutions they're visiting, the sports games that they're attending, the concerts, all of that spending that supports over 135,000 jobs across the hospitality, events, and travel and attractions industries.
Mm-hmm. And so when we see things like that, and we talk about the jobs connected to it, and of course, that benefits the entire city, not just maybe the area around a Soldier Field when there is a major concert.
Oh, that's absolutely correct. No, residents all across Chicago and Chicagoland work in these industries. They, provide for their families with these jobs. So tourism and hospitality is really a key pillar of Chicago's larger economy. And our arts and culture communities, our culinary industry that make our city so vibrant and fun to live in are also totally dependent on our visitors coming here to fill up those seats that the locals can't fill all of them themselves.
Yeah, it is a symbiotic relationship for sure. And what do you think keeps us as an economic powerhouse when it comes to tourism?
Meetings is a big part of it. So conventions and conferences at McCormick Place, the largest convention center in North America, or so many of our great hotels that have meeting venues, are introducing millions of new visitors every year who will come back to be leisure travelers. But we're also, out there marketing Chicago as a leisure destination regionally, nationally, internationally. The Sports Commission is working hard to bring new innovative events here. We've got the WNBA All-Star Game coming next month. So there's so much to do in Chicago year round, and we just never stop.
And that is something. I mean, we have so many things that are kind of baked in to the year that, I mean, there's just, I don't know that there is a dull month. Even when it gets cold, there's still just plenty of things for people to see and to do in Chicago. But I love to see the new things that are coming about.
Absolutely. Yeah. Obviously, one of the biggest things in Chicago this year was the Obama Presidential Center opening. That made a massive international splash, so much great visibility for our city and our communities, particularly the South Side. think that this is going to be something that is really a catalyst for more visitation to Hyde Park and the surrounding neighborhoods
Sure.
to support restaurants, support the other amazing cultural institutions in the area, like the DuSable Black History and Education Center, the Griffin Museum of Science and Industry, all the great restaurants there. We also had, the largest magic venue in the country open this year, the
Yeah.
Hand in the Eye. We've got a new casino under development, a new soccer stadium under development, the 1901 project. So the years ahead, as we look down the road, are just getting more and more exciting, both to be a resident and to be a visitor to Chicago.
And when you say it that way, I mean, is it like a moment that we're in where, I mean, for a while, of course, everything struggled after COVID, right? But for a while, the conversations were just about what we're losing, what's going away. And it does feel like there is a shift happening right now where we're talking about more things coming back and new things that are starting up.
Yeah, I think all those things I just mentioned support that. Chicago is certainly having a moment. And, our team is out there working hard to leverage the attention on our city from all of these great things. We just had the James Beard Awards. Culinary is a massive driver of tourism to our city. Over 25% of people say it's one of the primary reasons they want to visit Chicago or other destinations. So yeah, we're out there showing people why they need to be here now and in the future.
Yeah, and with the America 250, what are some things that are like on the horizon? I mean, you mentioned the WNBA All-Star Weekend, but what are some of the other things that are like on the horizon with America 250 that you think will bring even more people here?
Sure, Chicago has so much great America 250 or Chicago 250 programming. I think about the Grant Park Music Festival doing their annual tradition. The Chicago Symphony Orchestra has programming around America 250. So many museums, like the Chicago History Museum, have special programs for the 250th anniversary of the country. I'm very excited because Choose Chicago is a presenting sponsor of the largest fireworks display ever at Navy Pier this year. So, lots of great things happening in the next couple of weeks to celebrate the country's birthday.
Absolutely love it. That's going to be awesome. What do you think still what still challenges us when it comes to tourism for Chicago?
Sure. One thing that is a national challenge across all destinations, we're all feeling it, is international inbound travel. So, the industry has faced some economic headwinds, some issues with international sentiment around traveling to U.S. destinations. So it's certainly not just a Chicago thing. It's a U.S. thing, but it's something that we are working very hard to improve. And we've partnered with Brand USA, which is, you think about Chicago being the destination marketing organization for our city. Brand USA does that for the country. And we're partnering with them on a number of initiatives, including a new documentary series where we'll be featured as a major destination in the country, highlighting our architecture. So there's so much that we do to, go to international markets. Our global development team is out there talking about, how Chicago is a welcoming place and we want the world to visit.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. And that's a very interesting inside perspective on what is really challenging for those who do what you do throughout the country right now. Very interesting. Thank you so much for taking time for us to one, celebrate these incredible numbers. Again, everybody, 56.8 million tourists in 2025, the record-breaking number of $21.5 billion spent is amazing, Stephen, and we hope that we continue to top those numbers.
Yeah, we're going to do our best to keep breaking records and, engaging our entire hospitality and attractions and cultural industry in Chicago to work together and make Chicago the #1 destination in the country.
That's what we all want. Thank you so much for your time. Happy Friday. Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you. You too, Anita.
Absolutely. Love to see these numbers. I think, as we said, a few years ago, everything was like what left, you know? And so we love to see what's coming, what's growing, what's advancing. We like to see the conversation advancing there, to see these wonderful numbers here, and yes, to be the number one destination. That's what we all want. Again, especially if these types of spending numbers continue, because it fuels everything else that we see around here throughout the rest of the year. All right, 3:13. Give us 2 minutes before we're back. All right, welcome back, everyone. Coming up on 3:16 right now. I'm going to go over some of the things that are trending online, as well as a little bit of what our team is working on for the later shows here. As I'm looking, I'm seeing quite the headline for our 4 and 5 p.m. newscast that Leslie Moreno is working on for this evening. Rats biting a sleeping man. It sounds pretty gross. Sounds like there's a whole lot to this story, and she's going to be getting into it again, the details of this coming up in the 4 and the 5 p.m. news. Yeah, I hesitate because I'm like, do I want to know the details of that? But she's going to have the details. I mean, there could possibly be other people who need to be concerned. So she's going to have that coming up in the evening newscast. We're also going to be checking in with our crew, our colleagues who are covering the FIFA World Cup. Again, we're here online and on our air for Fox Chicago. We have the FIFA World Cup games that are going on. And I mean, the matches have been really electrifying, and we're not even at the height of it yet. You know, we're still kind of sort of in the early stages of things, and right now we have Norway and France that are in the midst of their back and forth here. It looks like France is winning at the moment, but of course we've had a lot to celebrate for the USA, and it's always a unique opportunity. I won't say unique, but rare opportunity that we really have when we're cheering for our teams as a country, right? Like, I absolutely love it during the Olympics. But the Olympics are like, Summer Olympics, 4 years, and then we come around to the Winter Olympics. We've got a couple more years, but it's It's not every year. It's not every day. It's not every month. Most of the time, when we're talking about our sports here in the country, there are, so many different teams, and whatever represents your city or where you're from, that's who you're rooting for. But this gives us a unified opportunity as a country to be rooting on these players who have come from all over the country. And keep in mind, when you are watching Team USA for the FIFA World Cup, you're also watching a couple of pieces of Chicago right there. When you talk about people who have come from all over the country, we have one local player, and then we also have the son of one of our coaches for our local team. So, and it's always a connection to Chicago for everything. But you know what? Saying that means there's a connection when things are good and when things are bad, okay? So good headline, yes, there are connections to our FIFA World Cup team right here to Chicago. Bad headline, let me tell you about one that is trending on our website right now. So, of course, people from around the world really watched the UFC match that was out on the White House lawn. We watched all the setup for weeks. There were a lot of questions about it in terms of no one had ever seen anything like that before. So surely people had a lot of questions. One about the location of it, and how large the setup was, and the money that went into it. Were tax dollars, or was it private? Or there were so many questions about it. So finally we get to the date. Of course, it was billed as a moment for America's 250th. It did fall on the president's birthday, and so even that was debated. I'm saying all of these things to say that much like what we see a lot these days, there are elevated emotions connected to a lot of the events that we watch. Okay, especially in the political arena, there are elevated emotions connected to the events that we watch. So yes, it's a UFC match on the surface, but there were many reasons also that people had an elevated emotion about this UFC match there on the White House lawn. So sure enough, we get to the day where there's the big match, and or the matchups that played out that night. And right after that, we find out that there was actually a plot to attack this UFC fight that was happening there on the White House lawn. Now, today, we learn a Chicago man has been arrested with this alleged plot to attack the White House UFC match. The investigation is ongoing here, but here's what we know at this point in time. A Chicago man arrested on a federal obstruction charge after prosecutors said that he deleted signal messages tied to this alleged plot to attack the UFC event at the White House. Prosecutors say his name is Alexander Iniguez Mercado, 20 years old. That he helped administer signal group chats where the attack was discussed. Now, we know 7 other people have been charged in connection with this plot as well, and we've been seeing more and more information come out about the people who are connected to it over time. But Mercado, the man from Chicago, is now facing up to 20 years in prison if convicted. These are allegations, if convicted, and he's scheduled to appear in federal court in Chicago today. And so, again, we just learned this today, that this man was arrested yesterday on this federal obstruction charge here. So, according to the indictment, an FBI special agent spoke with this man, Mercado, last name, by phone the day before the event. While investigating online threats related to the UFC event, the agent asked him if he planned to travel to Washington, D.C. to assist with the attack. Authorities say he denied planning to travel to Washington and declined to meet with the agent. But after the call, he allegedly uninstalled the Signal messaging app from his phone, causing messages and other data to become unavailable to investigators. So there's a lot here. There's a lot here to these very, very, very serious allegations here, and just kind of going through the Chicago U.S. Attorney's Office that's going to be pursuing the charges here. They say, you know, they're looking into anyone who helped to act to obstruct law enforcement investigations, or investigators in this case, because they were essentially safeguarding this information that they needed, and possibly deleting it. You know, typically there's you think you've deleted, but there's a delete to delete. So was it gone? Will they be able to resurrect something? We don't know right now, but this obstruction charge, again, carries a maximum of 20 years in federal prison if this man is convicted. And what is it, 323? He should be in court right now because the hearing was scheduled for 3 p.m. So he should be in court right now. We have information from the Secret Service acting special agent in charge. It says the safety and security of the President of the United States and all those under our protection is the United States Secret Service's highest priority. We approach this mission with dedication and vigilance in the current heightened threat environment. Successfully carrying out our protective mission is strengthened by strong partnerships. I want to thank the FBI for its steadfast collaboration and the U.S. Attorney's Office of the Northern District of Illinois for its relentless pursuit of justice. So very serious charges for this 20-year-old Alexander Iniguez Mercado, who now faces up to 20 years in prison, federal prison, for these charges related to that plot to attack the White House UFC event that happened just a couple of weeks ago. As we get more information in, of course, we'll be passing that along to you, especially coming up after this hearing. A lot of times in the hearing, we get more information. I'm not sure if that's going to be sealed. That's possible in a federal case, or if it's going to be released. But as we get more information, we will certainly be passing that along to you. Again, you know, most things have some type of circle back to our area. A lot of times that's good. We love it. But sometimes that's bad. All right, a couple more before I let you go here. Chicago rapper Twista. Man, 90s. 2000s, Twista was leading everything in the rap world. Well, now he's pleading guilty to failing to pay over $440,000 in taxes, pled guilty to 5 counts of willfully failing to pay income taxes from 2019 through 2023. And these federal prosecutors, another federal case here, said that he owes more than $440,000 in unpaid taxes dating back to 2011. He's scheduled to be sentenced in October, faces up to 1 year in prison for each count. And again, there's 5 counts. So can they work something out here? Sometimes that's possible. But it looks like rapper Twista is facing right around 5 years in prison. But that sentencing is scheduled for October of 2022. And, you know, the authorities here saying he was warned multiple times by both the IRS and even his own accountant, but continued to avoid paying his taxes over the course of all of those years. We're looking at 15 years now. So significant development there. Very unfortunate development there for many fans of Twista. And then I'll give you this one on a much lighter and happier note before we go to break here for a couple of minutes. The world's largest Hello Kitty cafe has opened in downtown Chicago. And boy, the lines never disappoint for an opening like this. I mean, we're right in the middle of, beginning of summertime, the first official week of summertime, but people are out of school and enjoying the city even more. And so the timing of this couldn't have been better. The Hello Kitty Cafe opened on the Mag Mile. It's at 360 North Michigan. debuting this 8,000 square foot immersive space. They have themed decor, photo opportunities, Chicago exclusive offerings as well. The grand opening celebration runs through Sunday, so you still have time to be a part of it. Again, I did mention lines, so you want to act fast, but they have some special promotions, Riverwalk views and themed retail with the cafe opening daily from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And some of the highlights include themed drinks, pastries like bao waffles, specialty lattes, all of it. Reservation only here for the tea room and things of that nature. But again, the celebration goes through Sunday. Let's take a 2-minute break here, everybody, before we move forward with our conversations. And you definitely want to hear more about junk fees being eliminated and the bill that just went through. We're back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. 3:30 right now. We have State Representative Bob Morgan as Illinois is working to crack down on junk fees. And one of his bills just went through, had the governor signing it. We watched that signing ceremony, Representative Morgan, and tell me a little bit about the work to get it to that point.
Of course. Thanks, Anita. It's always a pleasure to be here. We had a big day yesterday. This was a great day for consumers in Illinois. As a state representative, I've been working on this issue for the last 3 years with my partner in the Senate, Omar Aquino, to ban junk fees in the state of Illinois. These annoying and expensive fees that are being added to our bills, whether we're in person or online. For the last 5 years, it is everywhere, and they're increasing our costs and hiding it from you. And we are banning that in Illinois. And it was a great day again for just making sure our state's a little more affordable as prices continue to go up on everything.
What were some of the stories or things that you saw that made you say, I've got to forge ahead with this?
Yeah, for any of us who have purchased sports tickets or a concert ticket, or more importantly, just been to a restaurant lately, you usually are going to order your burger, which might be $12 or $13, and then you're going to get the bill and see that 3% has been added to it for a service charge or a convenience fee. And it's just basically profit. They're building it into what you're paying for your products online or in person, but they're not telling you about it. That has been grinding on me for years. And with the help of the governor and again my partner in the Senate, we finally banned that in Illinois, and we're going to end junk fees here.
Was there some pushback, and where did it come from?
Yeah, if you ask any association or industry about whether they charge junk fees, they will swear that they don't. Until you start to put pen to paper and say, well, you can't do this anymore because you're deceiving consumers. And then they're going to oppose your bill. We had a lot of opposition. We worked through that very, very hard. It was, in fact, one of the most constant bits of opposition that I've had on any bill I've passed in the last 8 years, as people just wanted to continue to charge junk fees to you and our constituents in Illinois. But with the help again of the governor and the attorney general, we were banning those in Illinois so that the price you see should be the price that you pay.
And I mean, this has been one of those issues that has plagued people around the country. How do you see Illinois handling it versus other states?
Yeah, a few other states have done this, and what they end up doing is just to pass it politically, they create exceptions or exemptions, some industries that don't have to comply, or they carve out different pieces of the biggest offenders. We did not do that. This law applies to everybody. There are some industries that the federal government and federal law already controls pricing, things like airlines. But everybody else in the state of Illinois, no matter who you are, what business and what you are selling, you can no longer have these hidden deceptive junk fees. You have to tell consumers the actual true price of your product, and it's going to save us money. These junk fees cost the average family about $3,000 a year in Illinois.
Ooh, wow. I mean, and you think about it, it adds up fast because it does come from so many different places.
Right. That's right. Yeah. And again, there were some really good stakeholders that worked with us. I would call out the Illinois retail merchants worked very closely with us to negotiate this bill. But there are a lot of industries that the lobbyists came out of their woodwork to try and kill this bill. And I'm very proud that we did it because it really is going to help everybody up and down the state, no matter who they are, at a time where really every kind of good and service is going up in price.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I see that this also covers ghost ticketers. If someone doesn't know that term, what does that describe?
Yeah, and so that was a different piece of legislation that the governor signed at the same time. But it was similar in the sense that you have different retailers who they're going online and they're buying hundreds or thousands of tickets, and it's called speculative ticketing. So they're trying to sell you a Taylor Swift concert ticket or a Savannah Bananas ticket that they don't actually have. And they're costing you money, they're costing the teams money. And so there's these middlemen and these third parties who are creating this market for things that they don't actually have access to or actually own. And this is going to prevent that as well.
Mm-hmm. And so, yes, it was like an overall package of bills. What
Right.
were some of the other things that were addressed in the package?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest piece was this junk fee ban, which would apply to all industries. Again, the speculative ticketing is something we're seeing more and more of, where people are going online to buy a concert or sporting ticket, and it looks like a good deal, and it's a little bit cheaper than elsewhere, and it looks like a good seat, but in fact, it's not real. And people are getting really hosed in terms of these online retailers. So that's going to end that practice in Illinois. And then the third piece that was signed dealt with pay-as-you-go lenders, which again is really a consumer protection question of these businesses, these lenders who are not really regulated by the state, promising you really good loan deals, and you could just pay as you go. But in fact, sometimes it's all a facade, and you're going to have really high interest rates, and they're going to really tank your credit. These are things that were not previously regulated, and now they will be in Illinois.
Yeah, I mean, they essentially kind of bank on you missing payments.
That's right. That's right. And, it's not the first industry to try and do that. But this was an area, it was kind of a gap in our regulations. And more people were being hurt by this as pay as you go is just a really common tactic to get people in the door. to buy and purchase things that they can't afford at rates that are unsustainable. And so that's going to give the state more power to kind of go after these bad actors. That's going to, again, protect consumers and make your lives a little bit more affordable.
And so, with the signing ceremony happening yesterday, when do these go into effect?
Yeah, the Junk Fee Ban Act will start on January of 2027. But I would note a number of these businesses and industries have already started to comply with what we passed. We were very clear about what this law is going to do and what the Attorney General is going to do to enforce it. And so you're seeing a lot of retailers and vendors start to put the true costs up front on their menu, on their websites, because they're going to proactively respond and comply. Because if they don't, they're going to, again, be penalized and targeted by the Illinois Attorney General as a consumer protection action. So we're starting to see some of this go into effect right now. You're going to notice more and more of these fees come out into the open so that you can make the choice as a consumer. Do you really want to spend this much money on a concert ticket when you know the true price? And that's what this is about. This is transparency. Make the choice to go to a game or a concert or not. But you shouldn't be deceived into believing you're paying less than you really are.
Transparency, accountability, affordability, all major terms being used this year to describe fights to help the American public. What do you think it is about this year where those things are really being tackled and bills like this are moving forward?
Literally everything that we purchase and we see is going up in price. I think we're all feeling that pinch, the stress on our pockets, the ways in which it's challenging us to figure out whether we can buy the groceries we really need for our family or pay our medical bills or be able to take that vacation with our family that we've been saving up for and no longer can afford. So these are things that are impacting every family across the state, no matter who they are. And these kinds of measures are going to make it a little bit easier for those that are just trying to get by and survive and have a healthy family and do the things that a normal family wants to do. Affordability is certainly a catchphrase, but this is a real thing. This is something that people are really struggling with as the costs of goods are going up. And oftentimes it's happening behind closed doors and in dark alleys in ways that we don't see it until we go to pay the check. So these kinds of transparency measures are going to save people money, and it's going to help families all up and down the state. So we're really excited about these steps forward. There's more to do. Goods and services are going to still be expensive. And so the more that we can do to push back against that, the better.
Yeah, I mean, when you say more to do, what do you think is the next thing that you would tackle?
That's a long list, and I look forward to working on things going into the next session. I mean, I would think of all the different pieces of our daily lives that are getting more expensive. We passed in the state budget this year a back to school, a tax holiday for school supplies. It's little things like that that has a cost to the state, but it makes so much of a difference for families that are struggling to get by. I'm going to be looking for more of those kinds of opportunities to make sure that we're investing in families that really, again, are just trying to make ends meet and trying to provide for their families. Those are things that the state can do, and we can always do better. I look forward to doing that.
Well, State Representative Morgan, we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for your time and for kind of shedding a window into the background of when we do see a signing ceremony, what it took to get to that point.
Yeah, I look forward to coming back with other measures of things that we pass in the next year to make people's lives a little bit more affordable. So thanks so much for having me.
Please come back anytime. We appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Right, it's 3:41 right now, and as we were talking about, it was like a package of bills that we watched the governor sign during our time here on Chicago Live yesterday, all aimed at consumer protection here in the state of Illinois. And Representative Morgan's bill on junk fees, eliminating those junk fees that have plagued so many people, was one of those bills that was signed by Governor Pritzker. And as he said, it will take effect January 1st of 2027, but there is some movement some momentum that's already happening right now that we should all be able to see. changes in over time. All right, let's take a 2-minute break before we get into our final discussion here on the show for the day, for the week. All right, welcome back, everyone. Time for our final conversation of the week here on Chicago Live. And we have had quite the wide range of conversations, some highs, some lows. So why don't we finish with a festival, and not just any festival, but the fantastic Long Grove Strawberry Fest. And we have Ryan Messner, the president of the historic Downtown Long Grove Business Association, the festival organizers, who's joining me now. Thank you so much for being here on the show. Uh-oh, Ryan, I can't hear you there. All right, we're gonna get it all worked out. Wasn't it so cool what was around him? Long Grove Festival is always just, it always seems so magical because they're able to turn, use strawberries and you see them in all different ways there. So really looking forward to being able to chat with Ryan just as soon as we have his audio there. This is Chicagoland, one of Chicagoland's largest and longest running summer festivals. And so you talk about people coming from all over for this. As time has gone on and more people hear about the great things happening there at the Long Grove Strawberry Festival, thousands of people come out for it each year from June 26th through the 28th. I think they can hear us, but we can't hear them. So still working on that. Let's just, I mentioned earlier about, the many different kinds of things that they can. So chocolate dipped strawberries, one of my favorite things. Strawberry shakes, strawberry popcorn, strawberry desserts, cocktails, wine. I mean, if you really can think it, they can make it. They can find a vendor who will be there showcasing it. And so starting today, again, their hours today are 12 to 11 p.m. So we've got some time today. Also Saturday from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. and then Sunday 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And the tickets are $7 a day, so very low. For people to be able to come in and enjoy all of those things that are there. $15 for a weekend pass. I think, Ryan, we can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yay. I was just going to keep
Excellent.
going, strawberry this, strawberry that, but now we can hear you.
Excellent. So we're working off the phone. The AirPods, unfortunately, something is disconnected on that, so I can hear you through the microphone.
Wonderful, wonderful. First, you got to tell us what you're standing in front of.
So this is our vintage truck, and we're obviously go back to historic downtown Long Grove. It's all vintage. We're a small town within Chicagoland. Brings you back in time. So it kind of just follows the feeling and vibe you have in Long Grove, and obviously it's Strawberry Fest. And it's the 250th year of our great nation. So we're excited to celebrate 250th year and Strawberry Fest all in the same weekend.
How do you take it up a notch each year?
We always want to add new type of music. We want to add more things for families. It's just we listen to what the customer asks and we try to provide. Bring new stores out, new food out. The cool thing about these fests is, it's Strawberry Fest. So all of our food vendors, they have some type of strawberry themed item. You go in our stores, they have strawberry themed items. Whether it's something you wear or something you eat, it just makes it exciting to get out and enjoy a weekend with your family. So where you can get away locally and have a good time with all ages. It's not just adults; it's adults, children. You can bring the dogs.
Is there anything that becomes like the highlight? Because it all sounds fantastic.
The highlights is obviously tonight is music. We have 16 candles, which everyone loves. We have a carnival that kids can come and enjoy. And again, there's something to do for everything. If you want to just come in and shop, you can shop. If you want to have, street food, there's street food. There's something for everyone in Long Grove. And it brings you back in time. You don't feel like there's that hustle and bustle every day.
Mm-hmm. And as I'm like pondering all of the things in my head, what brings you most joy about it? I mean, there's people coming to Long Grove from everywhere. Like, what gives you most joy about this entire festival?
For me, it's looking at the smiles on people's face. Long Grove's going through a big transformation over the last 10 years, where people come out, get that, wow, look at Long Grove, look what's happening here. Seeing smiles on everyone's face, enjoying just the excitement, the environment. That's what gives me the most excitement about what we do here. It's for the people of Long Grove and the community around us.
Mm-hmm. What is the economic benefit like from having a festival like this that's been so long running?
Yeah, so all the monies that we generate from the downtown from our festivals goes back into the town. Obviously, we use it to market the town. We also use it for building our brand. So recently this year, we put in all new branding signs and way signs and say, welcome to Historic Long Grove. We're also building a park for community to use. So we try to reinvest in the downtown. We've helped co-work with the village and put lights in the village. So we try to take those monies that we earn on the festivals and enhance the village and the beauty of what we have to offer.
Well, I know people are going to have an absolute blast this weekend. Thank you so much for taking a little time out of the busy schedule that you have, I'm sure, entertaining everyone and telling everybody about what's there to chat with us here on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. For more information, go to longgrove.org and look for the strawberry tent.
Will do. Enjoy. All right. Oh, my goodness. I didn't get to ask him about the pie eating contest. There's plenty to enjoy there again. There at the Long Grove Strawberry Fest. Now, listen, I'm going to tell you before we go to break really quickly here. If you are heading to Long Grove, be mindful of the covered bridge. We report on so many people that try to take large vehicles through there, and there always ends up being some type of issue getting through that covered bridge with people who don't take advisement of the height restrictions. So help the folks of Long Grove out. Be mindful of the height restrictions. If you have a high profile vehicle, make sure you know what you're getting into when you go there. But for sure, it's always a wonderful time there. The carnival rides, the games, the kids' activities, and of course, all of the strawberry everything that they create and bring in for this type of event. It's been going since, goodness. They say this is a chance to enjoy Illinois' first historic district established in the 1840s. All right. And so they have evolved over time and then created this festival that brings thousands of people their way. They have so many things that are going to be going on during it. And of course, the pie eating festival will be one of the highlights for sure. But great catching up with Ryan Messner, the president of the historic downtown Long Grove Business Association, for a moment. Let's take 2 minutes and then we'll come back. We might check up on the stock market today before we get out of here and turn you over to the 4 o'clock news. right, welcome back, everyone. 3:57 right now. So let's quickly take a look at the stock market before we turn you over to the 4 o'clock news here. And a bit of a mixed picture yet again today as we end the week here. And so the NASDAQ Composite actually posted a fifth consecutive losing session today. And this has to do a lot with technology in the markets. Some stocks there that kind of are all over the place, have been all week. But just kind of overall, we see the S&P 500 tick down today, 0.05%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average shed 44.51 points, as you see there on the screen. That's about 0.09%. And so a lot of this having to do, again, with technology and the stocks there. But also, I'm just kind of looking at some of the analysis here, and it says there is better than expected consumer sentiment data out today, and along with an improved inflation outlook, and that is why we're seeing some of the green on the screen as well. That actually helped out today. But the Minneapolis Federal Reserve president has said that he expects one interest rate hike will be necessary this year as a result of inflation linked to the conflict in the Middle East. So that'll be an ongoing discussion there as we see where things go from here. But wanted to take a look at that as we round out the week. We certainly appreciate all of you being here with us each and every day this week from 1 to 4 p.m. online. We will gear up to do it all over again next week. Have a good, safe weekend. We'll turn you over to the 4 o'clock news now.